Welcome to part 7. In this section, we're going to talk about creating your ideal employee character. So, this is called an avatar in the marketing world, but I prefer the word character because the next exercises that we're going to be going through are going to focus on about applying vision from part 6 and bringing it to life by creating a literal character that you will be speaking to throughout the rest of this course. So, before we get started, I do want to be fair and give you a heads up. I'm going to do my best to keep this light and move quickly, but we've got a lot of content to cover. And there's going to be a lot of slides that we're going to be flipping through. So, I just want to warn you that death is coming. So, what is a character? Well, if people get around, if people even get around to making this character, this is typically what it tends to look like when they're creating traditional avatars. So I want you to meet Andy the Avatar, who's a blue collar worker. He's 20 to 65 years old. He has some sort of education. His primary purpose of the education is to read your job ads. Okay, his relationship status doesn't matter. He could be single, he could be married. He looks something like this. And he's so generic that his face and profile match every other avatar in the world. And his hobbies include he enjoys the same hobbies as everyone else. When he's at work, when he's not working, he complains about his job and how he wishes he could make more money. And when it comes to his income, Andy makes less than me, the business owner, that's for sure, because I'm successful and I need to make sure that Andy knows how successful I am. Okay, and the point is this, that our idea of what avatars or characters are tends to be highly superficial. And most important, the character that we're talking about in most avatars just is not a real person. So I want you to remember rule number 1, that a character is a real person that you need to create in this process. And second, some people get carried away thinking that they need avatars for everything. And that is also a mistake. So whenever you're marketing, whether to clients or employee prospects, you are always only talking to one person. Is there more than one person on this call with me right now? Yes, but am I talking to everyone or just to you? I'm only talking to you. I'm only talking to you, and you need to be doing the same thing with your job ads. So the second thing here is focus on one character at a time. Focus on one, start with one. And eventually I will recommend that you create 2 characters, a male and a female character, but for right now you just need to pick one. I want you to only focus on creating one of them. Don't try creating the second until you have mastered this process first. And mastery comes from realizing the results that you're looking for, which is retention. We're here because you need to retain people. Are you attracting and retaining the right people with the right character that match the character of the person that you've created in this exercise? Okay, and characters are not something that you want multiple niches in right now. You need to pick one character that you can go deep with. This one character is called your ideal employee character. And as I said earlier, some people call this an avatar. And if you're stuck on that and you really want to, you can use that word. But sometimes I slip up and use the word avatar too, because it's an old habit and it's what people relate to. But I stopped using it because avatar to me implies something static and impersonal. And a character should be something that develops and improves over time. Great stories have great characters, not great avatars. Okay, so keep that in mind. Your business is a story. You need to fill it with great characters, not avatars. I want you to begin seeing yourself as an author of the story about the character development of your own company. So there's a story builder's technique that is really as old as time about how to create the hero's story. It's a technique called the hero's journey, and it starts a little bit like this. Okay, in the beginning of The Hobbit, Bilbo Baggins is living comfortably and peacefully in his little hobbit hole. And that is his normal life. So every hero's journey story begins with what the baseline is. What is the normal life? And even though the hero in this case loves his normal life, he also knows that there is something missing in it, something that his heart desires. But there's an obstacle in the hero's path that is preventing him from really doing what it is that he desires. Then one day, something unexpected and completely out of the hero's control happens that shoves the hero out the door and introduces him to a change. So, in the story of The Hobbit, there's this crazy old wizard that just showed up on his doorstep with 13 rough but lovable dwarves who offered Bilbo the forbidden fruit. And that, in this case, the forbidden fruit was an adventure. Okay, and if you don't believe me, this pattern is everywhere. Just look at Star Wars. Luke Skywalker grew up on the family farm, and his uncle wouldn't let him go to war with his slightly older buddies, gallivanting around the galaxy for riches and glory. Until one day, this crazy old guy shows up, tells him that he and his father, that is Luke's father, and this crazy old guy fought together in the Clone Wars, and they were Jedi Masters. And Luke's aunt and uncle are then tragically murdered, and he strikes a deal with a smuggler and finds himself at the very center of the conflict that he always longed to be a part of, but his uncle kept him away from. So that's the premise of Star Wars and the hero's journey there with Luke Skywalker. Whoops, wrong way here. So what happens to the hero next is growth. And this is where the hero is faced with a series of choices where they could give up and go home, returning to the comfort, safety, and normalcy of the way things were, or do they press on, face the challenges, and learn something new about themselves? And so Bilbo found the ring in the mines in the mountain, and Luke Skywalker found the Force. And he had the courage to face his fear, the great dragon or Darth Vader, in a winner-takes-all showdown. And either way, the hero, in one form or another, dies. Either his old self in the life that he used to know, or his new becoming self. And that makes for a bad story. Okay, you don't want the emergence of the hero, that person to die. That's why in a good story, the hero doesn't die. The protagonist is permanently changed into the hero. Bilbo Baggins doesn't really become Bilbo Baggins until he faces the dragon. And Luke Skywalker doesn't really become Luke Skywalker until that final moment in Return of the Jedi when he's on the Death Star with the Emperor and his father. And he's made a decision to really become who he is. And so that is the very brief and by no means comprehensive summary of the hero's journey. And I want you to know that this formula is powerful because the formula is real life. And so why does any of this matter? It matters because every one of your prospects is the hero of their own story. And there's one thing that every hero needs in order to develop as a character. Luke Skywalker would never have become the great Jedi he was without Obi-Wan. And Bilbo Baggins never would have found his bravery if it wasn't for the guiding hand of Gandalf constantly reassuring him. Every hero needs and ultimately meets a guide in their life. And this is true in stories because it's true in life. Okay, as I was developing as a young entrepreneur, I struggled hard. And I didn't develop until I met a faithful guide who was able to equip and train me in the direction that I needed to go in order to be successful. And so, likewise, you are not going to retain people if there is no path for them to become a hero in their own life. If you are bringing them into a situation where they stay stagnant and they remain fixed and unchanged and stuck in who they are and what their current situation is, then they're never going to evolve into a hero. And what's going to happen is they're going to leave you to go find another guide that's going to help them become who they want to be. Okay. And this is important. You are not the hero in their story. You are the hero in your own story. And what happens is two heroes start working together, but the problem is in a story, there can only be one hero. And that's a recipe for a disaster if you're trying to have two heroes in a story. That's why even in stories like, say, Guardian of the Galaxy, where there's this group of swashbuckling heroes that run through the galaxy, even though there's a group of them, it's really only focused around the growth and development of Star-Lord, and his team represents the people that he needs to help him become the leader and the hero that he was meant to be. Okay, so there's only one hero. And so that's why you're about to create a character, not an avatar, because I want you to care about the outcome this person has. I want you to learn how to attract people by positioning yourself as a guide, as a mentor, not as a boss or a business owner. That does not matter in the story. Okay, the author of a story does not insert himself into the dialogue because he's the author. Okay, this is why I keep telling you that your business is for you, but it's not about you. If you're a manager, not an owner in a company, you are still in business. You are in a business called You Incorporated, and what you sell is your time, and what you own is your role in the company. That job is for you, but it's not about you. You are only going to win and be the hero in your own story if you learn how and embrace becoming the guide. And that's what my role is in your story. I'm helping you become the hero that you want to be. So in order to connect with your prospects, you have to speak to them directly. The only way to do that is to know them. So go ahead and pull up the employee character worksheet. I'm going to go through this line by line with you so that to help you get through this. Okay, so go ahead and just follow along with me. Okay, I'm going to take it nice and slow, fill this out in real time so there's no excuse for not completing it. If you have a question, please unmute yourself and ask for clarity. Okay, and now is the best time to do that. Okay, because frontline workers are far and away the most common type of hire. That's the kind of character that I'm going to be speaking to, is those lower level, entry level types of positions. I want you to understand something, that those are the people you have the most opportunity with. You really don't want to hire outside talent for higher up positions because you want to promote internally, ideally. So, but even if you do, this is the same process that you're going to use for upper level positions as you will lower level. You're just going to adjust the focus a little bit. Okay, you still need characters for the upper level positions, but they're just going to look a little different. So that's why for now, we're going to start at the base and work our way up. So for this exercise, I want you to be thinking about the position that you have the most turnover in and create the character for that position. I also need you to pull out your worksheet from the previous section. You're going to need to know what they want, why they want it, the obstacle, their frustration, the plan, the vision. You need all that to feed your insight into this character. So let's go ahead and get started. First up is some basic information. How old are they? We want to know their age. Second, hiring is the first phase of the owner's exit strategy. And an exit strategy really isn't an exit strategy. It's a pathway to promotion. And that matters because most of the people that I work with are stuck in the trenches of their own business. And my job is to help extract them from those trenches and move them through the company until they are positioned in the company and in the lifestyle that they really ideally want to be living. And that's what it means to exit your business. Selling is not an exit strategy. Okay, it can be, but the way most people use it is selling is a last ditch resort. It's just their default. Okay, and selling is typically a bad plan unless you're a business flipper, and in that case, it's different. Okay, so while you're creating this character, I want you to be thinking about this future person and answer the question: is this person a former version of myself? And for companies with 20 employees or less, the answer is definitely yes, because you started this business from scratch, working in the trenches, baking the bread, mowing the lawns, or whatever it is that your business does. And if that's the case, then this character is definitely a former version of you. So you need to be thinking about what attracted you into this business in the first place. And for most people, they do what it is that they know. Some people are just kind of thrown into the mix, and they buy a business or they start a business because they think it's cool. But the reality is most people start what they know. So somebody who is a framer starts their own framing contracting business. A painter starts a painting contracting business. A law student starts a law firm, and so on. Okay. We all do what it is that we know, because that's where our confidence comes from. And that's important, because the same things that attracted you to this business are going to attract other prospects to come and work for it. I'm talking to you as a former version of myself, and I'm an absolute authority on what my life was like, and you are too. In fact, I scripted out every single slide in this program, including your responses. So don't get caught up overthinking this or with some belief that says you aren't qualified. You need to have some silly degree in psychology or, HR or whatever before you can talk about people. Okay. If you're a hiring manager and you've never done the work of the positions that you're looking to fill, that's okay. Because what I've been doing in this program is humanizing your future prospects to you. You right now are a wealth of experience and resources working with people. So remember that the goal today is to complete the assignment, not make it perfect. Just do the best that you can with what you have and come back later and refine the character with better information and better story. Okay? So I want you to work on the name. The whole point of the program is to show you how to make this personal. So when I'm coaching clients through this, what I tell them to do is that by giving the character the name of a friend, or mixing two friends' names together, or the names of people you find personally inspiring, is important. Why? Because you're a guide now, and you need to be invested in the success of your prospects. And so when you're creating your characters, I want you to be thinking about people that you actually care about, because caring about people is the goal. So earlier I talked about Tom Brady, and I did that because he's a real person that you can connect to, that most people know because of his fame. All right. That's the same reason why I compared your business and this job that you're trying to fill to an NFL team determined to go to the Super Bowl, because it's a real event that inspires people to become the best of the best. And I wanted to inspire you to go on your own hero's journey doing that. So what I did is I opened up a story loop, and now I'm closing it for you so you can see the completion and you can create vision for your own people. If you don't genuinely care about these people, then you will not succeed with them. Okay, next, I want you to tell me about their personality. Are they funny, witty, a people person? Are they highly driven to succeed and drawn to challenges that aspire to leadership? Or do they get lost in details? Are they highly analytical and have acute attention to detail? Are they kind and approachable, helpful, with the heart of a servant? These four groups that I just touched on are related to four key personality types. And at some point, you have to invest time into learning about these types and how they work together inside and outside of your business. But for now, keeping it simple will suffice. Just tell the brief details. And so while I've been talking, I hope you've been writing, because that's what you should be doing right now. Write this down and use all the words that I'm throwing at you as prompts for what to do, and just write down the first thing that comes to your mind, okay? So, whichever one of these groups stood out to you, I want you to label it and add a little bit more detail. And if they're a real person, are they the life of the party? If they are drawn to leadership, are they always wearing the best clothes in the room? If they're analytical, do they have difficulty getting along with others? And if they're servants, do they have difficulty saying no to more tasks being piled on top of their plate? These are scenarios you have to run through your head in order to get this right. Okay, so as we begin to get more personal and detailed, this is where it really helps if you are basing this character on an old friend. And for me, I think about my first childhood friend. His name was Zach. We were literally womb mates. His mom and my mom were pregnant at the same time, and we were born a couple months apart. Unfortunately, when I was 5 years old, my family moved away from him, and I only saw Zach a couple more times in my life, and we've grown apart and haven't talked, seen each other for 20 years or more now. So some of the characters that I've created, I've given the name of Zach. And I take what I remember about him and apply it to this person. It's my way of keeping his memory alive and imagining what he might have been like as an adult. Okay. And so that's a way of making this fun. I want you to get accustomed to doing the same thing. So you have to get personal and humanize this character. You need to get to the point where you can talk to this person. Okay. I enjoy talking to Zach in my mind. You need to know them as though they were an old best friend that you haven't seen in years, and now you're catching up with them. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to catch up on is, tell me what's new about you. What do you like now? So this gets me to the likes. Okay. Just tell me what they like. These could be things like hobbies, clothes, people, causes, activities. Just take time to catch up with the character. Okay. Most of what they most of these are going to be followed by why questions. Why do they like skydiving? When was the first time that they did that? How did they feel doing that for the first time? If my character has an adventurous side to them, one of the things that adventurous characters like doing is rock climbing. And the first place that Zach went rock climbing was here. Hang on. Here. There we go. This is Smith Rock State Park in Redmond, Oregon. And now that you have this, a story can develop. Why did Zach go rock climbing? Why here? And the reason is Zach is constantly growing. And this moment was actually a pivotal moment in his development as a hero in his story. Why is that? Because Zach never really thought of himself as a hero. He didn't used to think of himself as brave or adventurous. In fact, the only reason that he went at all was because another friend of his was a climbing guide. And he offered to take all the guys from his men's group at church on a free rock climbing session just for fun. And so Zach was the last person in the group to climb because he was terrified of it. Even though he was only going like 50 feet off the ground, he was still terrified. What if I fall? He had all these questions. But by the time it was his turn to go up, his arms were weak and shaking. His legs felt like overcooked macaroni noodles, all soft and squishy. He faced the rock, stuck his hands up in the air, and reached for a hold. And at first, he tried desperately to pull himself up. His fingers burned. His skin was scraped and scratched. The rock bit his skin, literally. And he did his best to dig his nails into that basalt, but he could not climb up the rock until his guide intervened and said, "Use your feet and trust your shoes. Only use your hands for balance. Stop trying to use your hands to pull yourself up. It'll never work." So Zach tried again, and this time he used his legs. And to his immense surprise, he began climbing this rock wall. And his shoes just stuck to the rock like glue, and he went up all the way to the top of the run, which was ended up being about 120 feet. And so, why did this story matter? Because Zach faced and overcame his fear. And when he reached the top of that run, he did something more brave. He let go of the wall and turned his body and looked out over the river to the west into the sun. And for a moment, just a moment, he stood there at the top of the run and he felt free. He felt miles away from everything, 120 feet off the ground. And that was when Zach found his love of adventure and trying new things. So I want you to know something really important. Until you can talk about your character like this, you're not really doing the exercise correctly. Every time you write about your character, you should be learning something about yourself, because the truth about this story is that it's my own. I just put Zach's name there instead of mine. And that is the key to making this personal rather than it being impersonal. So remember, if you don't know what they like, sorry, I read that wrong. If you know what they like, but you don't know why they like it, there's no real connection happening, which means that it's the same as not knowing it at all. All right, so I want to talk about their situation. As we begin to get more personal, we need to know what they dislike and why do they dislike it. Okay, more about their current situation. Tell me about their education. What is the extent of their education? Okay, how much education do they have? Did they go to college? Did they drop out of high school? Give me the story about their education. Okay, tell me more about their intimate relationships. Are they single? Are they dating? Are they engaged, married, broken up, or divorced? Why? What's the reason for the relationship? What happened to get them in or break them up? And why does this matter to your character? Okay, I want to know about their first adult job. Why? Because I want, wow, I'm sorry. I got some of these out of order. Tell me the story about their first adult job, because I want to know the story of how they got it, why they needed it, and what was at stake if they didn't get it. Okay, tell me the story about their first adult failure. Why did it happen? And what did they learn from it? This is really important. So I'm going to camp out on this topic for just a minute. Why are we creating the ideal employee character? Is it just so that we can have an interesting story that we never use in the hiring process? What is it that's going into creating this character? Okay, I want you to understand that you are putting yourself into this character. You're putting friends from your past, and you're creating a vision of what's ideal for the future. But also, what do you admire and appreciate that your current people are doing right now, that you or your current people are doing right? Okay, all of this will come together in your cultural melting pot. The reason why people love heroes like Luke Skywalker, Bilbo Baggins, or Captain Jack Sparrow is because they see a piece of themselves in the character. That is why these experiences that your character has, that you're building into their story, are important and matter to your prospects who will later become part of your team. It's the experience that makes the character relatable. And what's another word for experience that we should all know? And speaking directly from my own experience, the best word to describe experience is failure. Okay, you don't want to cast your company or your people as being perfect because that's not relatable. Nobody's perfect. But people that are relatable are people who have had failure in their life. And I'll tell you why. One of my mentors told me, everyone looks like a genius in a rising stock market. It's when the tide goes out that you discover who is swimming naked and who is not. Okay, good times do not challenge us. Failure is the fertilizer for growth. And there have been plenty of times in the market when I was swimming naked. Okay, I thought I was doing better than I was. But it's the failure of getting caught with the tide going out when the market crashes or falls or goes the wrong direction that a learning opportunity happens. Okay, your character needs to have faced at least one critical growth period, and you need to know what that period was. Because you don't want people who are afraid of failure. Your character needs to know how to overcome failure. Fear and failure don't belong in the same sentence when you're interviewing people. And again, why are we going to all this trouble to make this character and go deep into a sort of fictional story development? It's because when you are interviewing a live prospect, you have to have a standard to compare them to. You're asking yourself, has this person gone through some similar experiences that I set up for my character that have led them to become my ideal employee? What you're looking for is this. If they've not had some of these moments occur in their life, then they are not qualified to work with you. You're not looking for people that are not willing to confess and talk about their failures or deny the fact that they've made mistakes. And this is the story that I tell in Zach's life. Okay, he was newly married. He was working a new job for a local landscaping company, and he sucked. Okay, this is part of Zach's failure in his development. He was slow. He didn't know what the hell he was doing, and the boss only hired him because he was actually friends with the boss's girlfriend. Okay, so he didn't even get that job on his own. Okay, but Zach knew that he was about to get fired, and all the other guys were talking about it. But he had a new bride who was in school. They were in their first apartment together, and they had no money to fall back on and no time to go get another job. The rent was due in a few days, and they barely had enough money to make it as it was. So Zach had to make a decision. He knew that the one thing that his boss valued most was speed. So today he was working directly under the boss's supervision, and he decided to fight for that job and keep it no matter what. So he grabbed his trash bucket and ran everywhere on this multi-acre property. And he did it so much with so much gusto that it actually embarrassed his boss a little bit. And the boss came and asked Zach what the heck he thought he was doing. And Zach said, I need this job, and I know that the most important thing to you is speed. So I'm making sure I get the work done faster than everyone else. And I know all the other skills are going to come to me over time. And so all of a sudden, something happened. There was a shift in Zach and his boss. Zach's boss suddenly started having respect for him. And he said, stop running around. You'll be fine. And within 2 months, Zach rose to the second highest position under the owner and was leading teams of people at only 19 years old. And so now you're going to be asking me, but Mr. Cody, that didn't end in failure. And that's okay. As long as failure is a result and there is a defining pivot and change in behavior, turnaround stories are great. Okay, it's not the failure that matters. It's what they do facing it. It's what they do with it, and it's how they grow from it. Okay, so the next thing I want you to answer is, who are they? And I just want you to answer the question, who are they? Keep it simple. I've been giving you lots and lots of pointers about who this person is. Okay, so go ahead and just say that. All right. What do they do? And why are they doing it? Is this person a former version of you? Are you starting to get the picture now? This person is a former version of you. Whether you're the owner of a company and you've got a small team and you just need to start hiring people to fill vacant positions, or you're an HR manager in a larger company with 100 or more employees and you're just trying to get better at your game, this person is always a former version of you. And until you're able to put a piece of yourself into this character, you're not going to humanize it, you're not going to make it real, and you're not going to really win in this process. Okay. Where do they live? And why are they living there? Have they always lived there? Are they from somewhere else? Do they dream of living somewhere else? This is important because where people live determines who they are and who they are becoming. That's a very important phrase. Who are they becoming? Okay. Where do they hang out? And why do they choose that? One of my mentors explained it to me like this. He said, people are basically from one of two places. They're from churches or they're from bars. And each place has its own unique type of wisdom, language, and perspective. So does your character have what he called church wisdom, or do they have bar wisdom or some other kind of experience? Okay, tell me why and what it is that they prefer. Okay, what are three things that they're proud of? And why are they proud of them? Okay, pride matters. And let me ask you a question. Do you have kids? And if you don't have kids, do you know somebody that has kids? Okay, and if you know someone with kids, then you know where I'm going to go with this. Okay, if you are people proud of their kids? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Every parent is proud of their child. So that means that kids are a topic that people are interested in, especially if the conversation is about their kids. So what are people proud of? They're things that they're proud of are things that they are interested in. What do you suppose would happen if you were at a birthday party and you started talking to the person next to you and it's observed that the kid going back for thirds of cake was fat and ugly and has no self-control, and you just happen to be talking to that child's parent? Do you think that conversation would go well? Probably not. Okay. And do you think you'd be able to interest them in your company's products or services? And again, probably not. Okay, what people are proud of, they're interested in, and what people are proud of, they will protect. So identifying what people are proud of is essential because it creates opportunity for connection, and connection comes from agreement. Agreement comes from the prospect hearing their beliefs and values coming out of your mouth. So if people are proud of their kids, talk about how great children are. Okay, if you're a little confused about what that looks like, I'm going to show you a brief tidbit with the comedian JP Sears. Okay, COVID was the best and worst thing that ever happened to JP because he pivoted his brand from sort of casually mocking liberal people to being a downright mouthpiece for all the people who were mad over the lockdowns and government overreach of power. And just here as a side note, this isn't about politics. This is about me observing an incredible transformation, and it just happens to be conservative oriented. Okay. So he built a connection based on what he knew his prospects, his audience was proud of. They're proud of their freedom. They're proud of guns. They're proud of being an American, and on and on. Okay. Their pride was already being assaulted by another major political group, and people want to protect what they're proud of. And when there's nothing for them to do to protect it, that creates the obstacle. Okay, that produces frustration in their life, and that frustration is a form of pain. And what Sears did really well is he created a place for people to go and get relief from their pain, and that was his solution to their problem. It's super brilliant. It's super simple, and in my opinion, probably one of the best COVID plays, aside from using the absolute force of the government and unlimited taxpayer funding to force all the people in the world to take the vaccine. I mean, that was brilliant, but on an entirely different level that we're not going to talk about here. All right. What do they love? What does the character love, and why do they love it? And this is building on the previous question. Pride and love are similar, but they're also very different. Understanding pride is to understand frustration, and understanding what people love is to understand their fear. So, for example, when people love comfort, what they fear is discomfort. That doesn't mean that whatever people love is good. Some people love control, and what they fear is autonomy or liberty. And there's always a driving force that leads people to love what they do, and you have to understand where that comes from. And when people love what they do, they're afraid of change. So let's explore this topic a little bit more. What do people fear? What does your character fear? So just keep going with love and identify the fear. Fear is the antithesis of what people love. So for married people, what they fear is getting divorced, because a divorce is a kind of failure. And if people are not being honest about that fear and they don't address that fear, then what happens is their goal becomes not getting divorced, because fear is what's driving the relationship. And there's an old Chinese proverb that says that one often meets his destiny on the road that he takes to avoid it. And fear is part of life. And more people make decisions from a place of fear rather than a place of love or confidence. People that make decisions from a place of fear don't have strength. They don't have confidence backing their choice of action. And so when your goal is to not get divorced, that doesn't mean that you will have a good marriage. Your goal needs to be to have a great marriage, not because you're afraid of divorce, but because you love your spouse. So if we go back to the story about Zach and his first adult failure with the landscaping company, his goal wasn't just to avoid getting fired. His goal was to be a great employee and to prove himself to himself and his bride that he was a trustworthy and capable provider. So see, if his goal was, I'm afraid I'm going to get fired and I don't want to lose my job because I don't want to get fired, that's not strength and confidence. Instead, his goal was to win at his job. And that brought in the confidence that he needed to succeed. Is that making sense to you? Okay, moving on. The next thing. Okay, what pisses people off? For some people, it's Democrats. And for other people, it's Republicans. Love produces fear because what you love, you want to protect. And what you love, you are afraid to lose. And just the way love produces fear, pride produces anger. So what pisses people off is the antithesis of what they're proud of. These are people's primary emotional triggers. You need to know them well. If you don't, you'll never be able to tap into the drivers that are the keys to producing motivated people in your company. You'll have all the mushy whatevers. You'll have the people that show up and work for a week or two, but then you'll never see them again because you never tapped into their primary emotional drivers, because you didn't identify what they're proud of, you didn't identify what they love, and you didn't identify what pisses them off. But here's the truth. Within a mushy person is the capacity for a degree of greatness. My character, Zach, is that person. Zach was mushy and soft in the beginning, but he had experiences through his life that brought out a real gem that was inside of him. So I want you to be thinking, what are the gems inside of your character that need to be identified and refined? Everyone has them. Find your characters and base your character's gems off of your own. Okay, what do they believe? This is very, very important. This is a testimony about your own life as much as it is about the life of the characters and the people that you're going to hire for your company. Okay. Nothing happens without belief. Nothing happens without belief. It is not possible for a human being to do anything without first having a belief. Ask yourself the next time that you're brushing your teeth, why am I brushing my teeth? It's because you believe that if you don't brush your teeth, you will eventually get cavities and need to go see the dentist. And eventually you'll lose all of your teeth if you don't take good care of them now. So why do you believe that? Maybe it's because you've had cavities in the past. Maybe it's because you're afraid of the dentist and you've had friends that have had cavities and you're terrified of needles. Okay. That would be my wife, by the way. You know, that woman's never had a cavity. And I don't think that she ever will because she's terrified of needles. Why is she terrified of needles? I don't know. Probably because she believes that if she ever got poked by one, she'd bleed out and die. Okay, not every belief that people have is based in reality. And sometimes our beliefs aren't even based on reason. So now if I can make this a little more personal, my character for this company that is about my coaching company, has a belief that sabotages their business. And I've heard this come out of almost every business owner's mouth, probably even yours. And that belief is that people can't be trusted. I've heard this so many times. I can't count on people. The only one I can trust is myself because people always let me down. This younger generation doesn't know how to work. That is a belief. Well, you know what? Let me tell you something about this younger generation. They know how to work. The problem is they don't want to because they grew up in a home with a mom and dad like you who were workaholics, constantly chasing money, debt, divorce, remarriage, the Joneses, and whoever else. And that's what they've been told that success looks like. And it's nothing but a goddamn mess. And they just don't want their life to be as messed up as yours. That's the truth. So don't ever say that this generation doesn't know how to work, because I've seen them rise up and become something great. And the truth is that right now there are forces at work in this country that is co-opting them and corrupting them to become less than and to fall into this own line of belief that they're owed things by you. So what do your prospects believe about you? They believe that you only care about yourself and money, not them. Does your ass hurt? It should. So write down 3 things that your prospect believes. Scratch that. I think maybe you need to write down a few things that you believe about your prospect, because you have to identify your own beliefs so that you can see your prospect clearly for who they are. Okay, and the reason why you're here doing this is because you need to change that belief. And the only way you can change beliefs is by identifying them and calling them out and saying, you know what, the truth is, I can trust people. People are trustworthy. Yeah, you're right. I've been hurt by other people in the past, but I'm okay. I got through it. I have the ability to handle it. And the truth is, if I don't learn how to trust people, then I'm always going to be the one stuck doing all the work in my business. And I'm not okay with that. Okay, that is how you cancel a belief and start with a new one. And that is the work that you need to do right now. Okay, what was your character's favorite thing to do growing up and why? Okay, tell me about their first car and what it meant to them. And what kind of home did they grow up in? And remember, I told you that only people who are unhappy are looking for jobs. Why is your prospect unhappy? They're unhappy because they're in some kind of pain. And I want to talk about pain. What is pain? And this is really where you need to attach your vision for this person and their role in this position and what it means, not to you, but to them. Are they working too much at their current job? Do they need to save for retirement? Are they looking for an opportunity for leadership? Do they want a stable career? You can't just give people benefits without understanding why they specifically need them. Why does someone need to save for retirement? Most likely because they're afraid of being dead or dead broke by the age of 65, completely dependent on friends, family, or the government for their needs. That is not freedom, my friend. This is why I said that money is only what people need. It's not what they want. Everyone knows they need money. It's what they want the money for and why that matters to them that makes the difference in their life. Everyone knows that every NFL player's dream is to win the Super Bowl. But not every player is going to make the cut to be NFL worthy. So why are they in pain? What's the unmet need their current job is not fulfilling? Inspire you as to what a potential bruised knee might be. Okay, we want to look at what is their pain. I call the pain the bruised knee. You have to know what people's bruised knee is because you have to kick it from time to time. Okay, why are they experiencing the bruised knee? And for most employees, this is their bruised knee. Okay, this is a Dilbert comic. We have Catbert, the evil director of human resources. And this is the stereotype that I want you to walk away from. Okay, and Catbert's talking to the boss and he says, leadership is the art of trading imaginary things in the future for real things today. And then Catbert goes to Dilbert to demonstrate. If you work all weekend, you might get promoted someday if there's ever an opening and no one else is more qualified. And so that's sort of the facade of leadership. This is how people see you, as offering things that you're not serious about or committed to making real in their life. And that is the image that I need you to start identifying and changing and walking away from. Okay, what do they want? Why do they want it? These are questions that we already went over. You should already have an idea of what that is. Write it down again here, add to it, change it if you need to. Okay, this is where people also start running into some trouble. Money is the solution to most of your problems, and it is the answer to the pragmatic needs of life. So in business, money solves the problems. Money gets you the people, money gets you the equipment, money gets you the inventory, money gets you all the stuff, okay? But when it comes to people, the purpose of life is not to spend your life working for money. Okay, that's not living, that's surviving. The purpose of life is to live it. And so what is it that people want? They want to live their life the same as you. Money, benefits, flexible hours, working from home, all of these things are nice and good. But if you assume that that's all they want, then you are leaving connection on the table and walking away from it. Let me tell you about Zach. Zach is proud of his children. He wants them to grow up with greater opportunity than he had as a child and a young adult. He regrets not being a better father and having more time to spend with his kids. But he knows that he can make up for that by being part of creating the future opportunity that they will need. So he wants to start a college savings fund for them. And in order to do that, He needs a job where he can make enough money to cover the monthly obligations and have something left over to set aside for his children for college. Okay, why does Zach want that? To save money for his kids' college. He wants that because it's one way that he thinks that he can compensate for not being a better father. And why does he want to be a better father? Because he wants his children to know that he loves them. Why does he want his children to know that he loves them? Because he's afraid they won't love him back in return. And what he wants is just to be loved by his kids. Are you getting this? Do you see what just happened right there? We started with money. Zach is unhappy because he's not making enough money in his current job, and money is his bruised knee. So what he wants isn't actually the money. It's what the money makes possible for him. What he wants is to be loved by his children, and what he fears is being a bad father and unloved in return, because in his mind, being a bad father equals not being loved by your children. Why? Maybe it's because, his father worked all the time and he grew up resenting his father for not being around. And he's afraid that his children will see him the same way that he saw his own father. What and why? That's what this is all about. If you don't know what they want and you don't know why they want it, then it's the same as not knowing at all. And until you get to one of these three core emotions, greed, fear, or vanity, you haven't really uncovered the truth about what people want. So Zach's motivation was fear. That was his core motive. He was afraid of being unloved. And that is the source of his pain. And that is what's motivating him to move and make changes and leave one job and go to another. If you're in the NFL, you're motivated by the vanity. I want to be a superstar. I want to be there holding a trophy. I want to have the ring. That's all connected to vanity. And some of it's connected to greed. I want to be the best. I want to make all the money. All of that is fine. None of those things are bad. The only problem is not knowing them. Because how does the NFL attract the best talent? For a team. They're there to satisfy their greed and their vanity. You're going to be treated like a superstar. We're going to fill this stadium with screaming fans that are shouting your name and want to see you perform. You're going to make all the money. We're going to sign the big contracts. It's going to be great. And then we're going to take this team to the Super Bowl. You're going to have that ring. You're going to be on TV. That is what they want. And their fear is that if they don't go with you, they won't get it. Greed, fear, vanity, all in one. It's powerful. And the better you know it, the more successful you're going to be. And so even though your live prospects are obviously going to be in different situations than your character that you're creating now, they're going to share a connection to the emotion in the story that your character is experiencing, because you need all of this to create your role description or your job ad. Okay. Okay. What challenges are you going to solve for them? And are you committed to a pathway to success or promotion so that your prospects can achieve their goal by working in your company? Okay, the result of an underlying condition, which is the challenge, is X. Okay, the result of a challenge is X, the symptom or the emotion. Okay, so I want you to list 3 challenges that you solve for this character. And there is a formula for challenges, and it looks like this. Okay, if someone is being undervalued, the challenge is insignificance. I feel insignificant. Insignificance is the underlying condition that produces a symptom of frustration. If someone feels frustrated by being passed up for a promotion, or not being heard in their workspace for improvements or opportunities, that is their challenge, getting promoted or being heard. So, what challenge are you solving for your character? Is the job itself that you're offering, the role, is it a promotion? Is there a clear path to promotion from this position? All right, next, who are they becoming? This question is last because it's the most special. This is where I want you to look into the future of this character, take in their flaws, appreciate their strengths, and look to the horizon of their life by saying, this is where I see you going. Because the truth is, identity is not a static thing. This is why we're not creating avatars. We're creating characters. They grow, they morph, they change, and you as the author have to feed your character. Okay, we think of characters as being static because we're accustomed to seeing ourselves in the snapshot of the moment of our lives. But we are living beings. We are constantly changing and growing. So we too are also in a state of constantly becoming. Who are you becoming? Are you becoming a leader who is unusually talented at creating connection with people because you will be fanatically committed to helping others become better versions of themselves? Okay, so I do want to say congratulations. That was a lot. You made it through the longest section of the program, and I'm super proud of you for hanging in with me and doing all the work as we went. Okay, we're going to take a break for about 30 minutes so that you have time to wrap up some loose ends for this whole character story sheet so that you'll be ready for section 8, where we will get into the job description and a little something that I call a day in the life. And you need your character with you to help you finish that section. So remember, we are not looking for perfect. We are only looking for finished work. So going back and improving is the longest part of the process because you will be updating this as long as you have your business.